Hi everyone, welcome to Chinwag Romance Chats, a weekly YouTube series where I'll be discussing everything romance and romance adjacent with various guests. Expect laughter, flailing about our favourite genre, and general fun. These are partly to feed my ADHD need for constant stimulation, so please don't expect any fancy editing. This is just us at our rawest and most chaotic. And for our inaugural chat, I'm delighted to welcome Golden Angel to Chinwag, a
Hi.
USA Today romance and erotic romance author. She's written everything from widowed historical heroines to bunny shifters to who cow subs on planets far, far away. Her TikTok series, Just the Tip, has invaluable advice for new and established authors alike, and her cosplay outfits are to die for. Welcome, Golden.
Yay, thank you so much. That
Thank
was
you
a
so much for
wonderful introduction.
I'm quite proud of it and also quite witty. Like I'm good at being witty if I write it down, but if I try and do it off the cuff, it's an absolute fuck. So,
Yeah.
um, I thought I'd start, as I'm intending on starting all of these, with pulling a card. And you picked the Believe in Your Own Magic Oracle deck by Amanda Lovelace. I really love Amanda Lovelace. They're queer, and they create really lovely, inclusive decks. One of my favorite things about this deck is it's got a woman with a prosthetic leg. It's got fat women in, people of color. It's absolutely gorgeous. So we're going to
Super
pull a
inclusive in like
card.
every way.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
delicious. We're going to pull a random card, and then we're going to talk about the card and then use that as a start jumping off point for the chat. So,
Hmm.
Angel, tell me when to stop, and we will stop. Oh God, no! Apparently, cards insisted on falling out immediately.
The
When cards
universe
do
has
that,
spoken.
we have to listen. Okay, we've got three.
Okay,
Ooh,
let's do it.
okay. We have Witch.
Mm.
Justice is coming. I love the fact in her closet she's got both a sword and a baseball bat. She's like, fuck
Nice.
you, universe. We are gonna fucking make this happen. Um, this one, which is Sun, paint the sun back into your sky. Like she is putting the sun into her own sky. I love that. It's like that whole taking control of your own destiny thing. And this one, Stars, manifest your every wish.
I like
They're really
that.
lovely. Okay, so we've got taking control of your destiny, manifesting, and you have a whole thing about manifestation as well, don't you? With your little
Well,
bottle.
I've been doing a lot of work with manifestation with Renee Rose over the past couple years, I guess now. And just working on like mindset and I'll be honest, when I first started working with her, I was a little bit more not as into the like woo woo aspects of it. I'm
Mm.
like, I'm going to manifest the thing that I want, but kind of just the idea that for me it was, if I'm thinking about this thing that I want, I am going to be more open and I'm going to be more focused on what I need to do to get there. Like I'm going to be taking the steps to get there. I know that's my goal, and so I'll be moving towards it. And also I'll be more open to things that come my way that will help me get there.
Yeah,
Um
I work with Lisa Kessler on
yeah.
manifestation stuff, and she's a paranormal romance, and it's all about getting out of your own way a little bit.
Yes.
If you sit there
Yes.
going, "Oh, I can't possibly do that," you're never going to be able
Right.
to do it.
Right, like there have been many times in my past, both career, like author career or just life, where it's like, oh well, that's not for me. And so an opportunity comes your way and you turn it down, going, well, it's not for me. It won't, but if you're like, well, this is what I want, and it's an opportunity comes your way and you're like, yeah, I believe I can get to this thing. And so this opportunity, it's all about saying yes and recognizing and being open to the possibilities. And then, sometimes things happen that I literally have no explanation for and that are just really so coincidental to whatever work I recently did with Renee, that I'm just like, I mean, I can't believe that I just manifested this out of nowhere. Like, there's a part of me that, like, literally cannot believe that, because that is so ludicrous. And at the same time, I
I
have no other explanation for it.
I was working with Lisa last no 2 summers ago, and I just had this really big shit ton breakup, really awful. moved into a new place, and I was like, I really need to make some money. It's before I'd started writing as Ellie Rose. I had a couple of things out as Ali, but didn't have a lot coming in. Had my day job, was like, fuck it. And I had my meeting Lisa, and I was like, I need an editing job. And the next day, the biggest editing job that I've ever had for more money than I could ever have imagined at the time came in. And I was like, oh, literally within 8 hours of the
Yep.
meeting, I was like, shit, this shit is this is powerful.
Oh, yeah, and, like, and sometimes it's unexpected stuff, sometimes it doesn't work quite the way that you would have thought it would, and so it's really just about being open to whatever comes to you in whatever form and not necessarily, like, because you can't, there is also the, like, "I'm gonna manifest this, and this is how I'm gonna get there," and that's not necessarily gonna work as well as just being very open to what's coming your way.
And
Uh,
sometimes the universe is like, oh, you think you're going to do it this way? Oh,
right.
sweetheart, my
Yes,
sweet summer child. No, that's
yes.
not going to happen.
I
Um,
was yeah. I was telling one of my friends, yeah, every year I choose a word for the year. I say every year. I've done it for the past 2 years. And last year it was rock star, which was amazing. And I rock starred a little too hard. And so I was like, all right, this year it's going to be thrive. I want to thrive. And I meant career financially. I'm thinking like financial thriving, money just coming in with me having to do as little work as possible.
love
And the
it.
universe was like, no, no, you're going to have to learn how to thrive as a person, which is something you're bad at. So, like, this whole year has been some of, like, the most painful self-work and, like, self-awareness
Oh,
and learning about myself and then having to fix things that I would have preferred to ignore about myself, like my very troubled relationship with having any kind of boundaries whatsoever, and, like, learning how to put those down and learning where I need boundaries and having to face the fact that I need boundaries and that there are places in my life where I have either become an enabler or a doormat or like
it's really hard.
it
And
is.
sometimes when the universe like hits you in the face with that shit, you don't want to hear it. Like, I there was a point when I had a deck. I love this deck. It's called the Wild Unknown. It's beautiful. It was the first proper deck I owned, and it got to a point where for 6 months, when I was in a previous relationship, every time I pulled a card about it, I would get death, I would get the devil, I would get the tower. And I would look at it and go, it's okay. It's okay. It just means everything's going to change. Everything's going to get better. And ignored it to the point
Yeah.
where I ended up having to do, after that breakup, before the other one, um, I ended up having to do a cleansing ritual with the tarot deck because it got so frustrated with me not listening that whenever I tried to do any pull with it, it just fucking yelled in my face. Like gave me the hardest
Goodness.
cards going, are you listening? Listen. It's just brutal. But yeah, like that kind of, it's almost shadow work.
Yeah.
Like
It
this idea
is.
that we have to engage and embrace the sides of us that we don't necessarily like.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
I always
Yep.
think it's interesting because shadow work in books are what make me love characters the most. The
Yes.
characters who are willing to go, oh, I really fucked up here, or I messed this up. I'm not
Mhm.
necessarily saying, in a grovel, although I love a grovel, but like characters who go, okay, this is the part of me that I don't necessarily quite like, or I know is not particularly good. Um,
Mhm.
but I'm gonna embrace it anyway. Like this is who I am. And like
Right.
being unashamedly like, this is me, but with boundaries.
I I started the work that I ended up doing on myself, I started doing because of characters, thinking that it would help me with character stuff, which was Enneagram stuff with Claire Taylor. And then it turned out that as I got deeper into the Enneagram stuff, I started doing like some of the coaching and stuff. I backed one of her Kickstarters, and it just made me take some really good, hard looks at myself. And if anyone doesn't know what Enneagram is, it's one of those personality things, but it's very focused on what motivates you. by which it
Mm.
means what scares you the most? What's most painful to you? What are you going to work the hardest to avoid?
Oh, that sounds
It
like something I should
sucks.
most certainly avoid and do at the same
Yeah.
time.
But it's great for writing characters because it's like, okay, what is the most painful thing that this character absolutely wants to avoid? And then you make them face it. And that creates great stories. It creates great motivations. It creates understandable moments. So, like, it's like this character is acting like a crazy person unless you understand where their motivation is coming from. And that, that motivation might not necessarily be yours, but if you
Mm.
can make people understand this is the fear that they're having, this is the shame that they're trying to hide, this is what they're trying to avoid, and that's why. So it made me really think about some of my characters in my current work in progress. One of them is an Enneagram 2, which is what I am, which is writing her is so hard for me because I've put her in this terrible situation where she's having to rely on others. And the Enneagram 2 is the helper. And if we aren't helping, if you're an Enneagram 2 and you aren't helping, you are worthless. Not only that, if you're having to ask for help, like one of my coaching sessions with Claire, she was like, what does it feel like to have to ask for help? And it's just a failure. Like, that's it. She's
I
like, "Anything else?" I was like, "No, that's it, like, just I've had to ask for help. I'm a failure and a burden."
I had a full-blown meltdown last year. My
Oh.
day job is a delight, but sometimes people don't meet the deadlines they're supposed to meet,
Mm.
and they didn't. And I came back after Christmas and just had email after email after email after email after email, and I was supposed to action them all, and they were all a month late. And there were so many coming in that I couldn't do it on my own. And I
Right.
had a full blown shutdown for 2 weeks where I sat and stared at my computer for 2 weeks and just saw them coming in. And I took a day off work, and my boss called me in when I was next in and was like, what the hell is going on? You haven't logged on. You haven't done this. I was like, no, no. I'm like, what? And I think they thought I was going to lie about it. I was like, oh, no, no, I didn't do any work. And they're like, Ali. I was like, I had a meltdown. Couldn't do anything. I literally stared at the screen for 2 weeks, and they're like, "Why didn't you reach out?" I was like, "Everyone else manages without help." And they're like, "No, everyone else asks for help. They just don't talk about it." I was like,
Yes.
"I don't like it. Don't want
No.
to do it."
No. Yeah, no, like, I'm supposed to be able to handle all of it on my own, and not only that, I'm supposed to unburden everyone else around me and help them with their things because that's, 1, how they know that I love them, and 2, how I make myself valuable to them so that they
Yes.
don't leave me or stop loving me.
I have. It's probably somewhere on my
Yeah,
very
so
messy desk.
Enneagram sucks, long story short, it's
I mean, you
awful, but
say
it's
that, it
so
sounds
helpful.
fucking awesome. I have a little
It's
book of
so
work.
helpful.
I have a little
Yeah.
book of work. I messaged all my friends. I was having a really, it was about a year or so ago, really, really bad time. And I messaged most of my friends and I said, can you please tell me reasons why you like me? Because I can't remember any reasons right now. And they sent not only reasons why they like me, but reasons why they loved me. Like friends I've had since I was little, my siblings, writing for like tons of people wrote, and I wrote them all out in glittery gel pens, obviously, in this little book, and I call it my little book of worth. And when I'm really struggling with my inherent worth, there's this idea that my friends calls inherent worms, because inherent worth is too difficult a concept to accept. Um, this idea that all we need in order to be worthy is we need to exist. If you exist, you are worth taking up space. You are worthy of everything. You are worthy of love and affection and kindness. You don't have to do anything, you just have to exist, which is really hard. But having a little book of
It's
work means that when I can't do anything, if I'm burnt out or I'm exhausted, I can get it out and flick through it. And it's things like, you're really funny. You see the bright side in everyone. Um, some not safe for work things from my girlfriend. Like there are all sorts of bits and pieces in there, but it reminds me that I don't have to do anything
Right.
to be worthy. And it's really hard. That is a I need to put that shit into a book. Like, oh, I've got a
Like I
one.
said, I'm working with one of my characters right now, and I've never been in the situation that I put her in, but I know how I would feel in that situation. And I mean, it's some of the hardest writing I've ever done, but I also think it's some of the best.
I love
Um,
that. When you but my little Ellie Rose ones, I started
mhm.
writing, they're my Stuffy Hospital series. And when I started writing them, I was releasing one a month because I'm fucking masochist and have a full-time job and a PhD, and I totally got time to write that much. I
Why
don't know.
not?
Um, I could tell you, I can read one of those stories and tell you exactly what it was I was working on in therapy that week
Yeah.
because they're
Yeah?
so short. I'm like, oh yes, that. But one of the things I like to do is I do tarot readings for my
Mm.
characters. So I often do a 3 card spread, like a past, present, future, and then like signifier. But instead of past, present, future, exactly, it's a okay, what's their past wound? What's the thing that's haunting them? Present,
Right.
where are they at right now? And then future isn't what they're going to be, it's what they think their future should be.
Oh, interesting.
And that's always really revealing because what people think their future is going to be or what their future should be tells you so much about how fucking messed up they are.
Right.
Because we love to traumatize our characters, obviously.
I actually don't, I hate it, but
I give them
working
such,
on it, I'm working
I
on
give
it.
them trauma, and then that
That's
way
one
I
of
don't
the things
have to
I'm
give them
working
a black
on.
moment. There's no black moments. My characters don't break up. They all, everything sort of, they just work together towards a happy ending, and then I'm like, yes, that's acceptable.
I have what I call a gray moment. It's not like a full-on breakup. It's a hurdle. It's a bump that they have to get through together. And sometimes they take like a little break or a little space, a little separation. Every once in a while it'll be like a breakup, but yeah, it's much more about like we've hit a, a trouble spot and we have to work through it. And then after that, I'll put them through, obviously not the exact same situation, but some kind of situation that's usually a little bit on smaller scale, but that shows that they learned the lesson that they were supposed to
Oh, I
learn.
like that. I
Yeah.
had in Fortune Flames, the hero is hiding this big secret from the heroine the whole way through.
Mhm.
And it can, and they had sex twice, and eventually, she's a blacksmith suddenly turned dragon shifter, and he's 2,000 years old, as you do. And he turns around to her and goes, "Hey, this is the thing. I haven't told you this," and he's shaking. And she's like, "Oh, darling, that must have been really tough. Why didn't you talk to me about it earlier?" And he's like, "Wait, you're not angry with me?" She's like, "No, you're clearly traumatized. I'm not going to be an asshole about that.
Which
Let's
is
see what we can do together to fix it."
yes. Yes, and sometimes like and that's the thing about fear and shame is like they're such relatable human emotions and they make you behave in a way that you might not, that you wouldn't otherwise. It makes you behave more unreasonably. Um,
Yeah, and a lot of people really hate miscommunication trips. They're like, if they just sat down and talked together, it would all be sorted out. But there needs to be, I don't mind a miscommunication trip. Some of the best, Courtney Milan wrote a historical, is it The Duke Who Didn't? I think so. Who, which is all around this he has a secret that he hasn't told anyone. I don't mind those as long as there's a good reason why the people haven't
that's
told each other. If it's
and
just
honestly,
because
that's
they
what
haven't gotten round to it, but if there's an
right.
actual thing stopping them,
Yes. And that's what Enneagram can be really helpful for
yeah.
because it's that fear motivation. Like right now, in my book that I'm working on, it's an MMF. One of the men thought he was straight until he met the other guy, and they had actually broken up and have just gotten back together because he has not come out to his parents yet that he is with a man. And he, I'm like trying to figure out, like, okay, like why hasn't he? Like, what is he afraid of? And yes, they've been like open-ish, but they also say things, they're just kind of out of touch. They've said things that make him feel not secure enough to be able to come out to them and just be 100% sure that they'll accept and love him. And I was trying to figure out what Enneagram he was, and I realized he's an Enneagram 6, which is all about loyalty and security.
Mm.
And so he is loyal to his parents. He's also loyal to the idea that they have of him. He feels secure in their relationship as long as he's who they want him to be. And now he's
I didn't come out to
struggling.
my parents till I was 32, and this is the storyline why. Continue.
So, but at the same time, he understands that he is making his partner feel incredibly insecure. So he's having to choose between these two securities, the security within his family unit of I am loved here, and the security within his romantic partnership of I am loved here. And that is a huge struggle because it's not like one thing, it's all about his security and feeling loved by being secure and feeling safe by being secure. And like once I started doing the Enneagram work, because I'd had this character for a while and I knew what was going on with him, but I didn't know why. And once I started doing the Enneagram work and I started really digging down into why, all of a sudden I'm like, yeah, no, it makes sense that that he's still resisting telling his parents.
I'm gonna
He
have to
wants to be secure in both. And he has a great deal of shame about making his partner feel insecure. And at the same time, it's not quite enough to overcome the fact that the most secure relationship he's had his entire life is with his family. And
that
that's
is
a security that's gone back decades. And so giving up that for a relationship where they've already ended it once, where romantic relationships don't, a lot of people kind of think of like the family as being the most steadfast, and he does. And for a romantic relationship that they've already broken up once, that he doesn't have a guarantee of the future, like they could break up again, like choosing that security over the family security is really freaking hard for him. And I'm like, all right, you're not an asshole. You're just struggling. I get it. Like I now that that motivation is there, I get it. And it's going to cause him to do some kind of shitty things because he's going to panic when he starts feeling his security threatened. Um and some of it will be deliberate miscommunication, but it's because he's trying to preserve his sense of security. He's trying to stay away from his deepest darkest fears and keep his utmost desires.
And I think the thing for me, I always say that I don't truly believe that characters in a romance can fall in love until they've truly been vulnerable with each other. And part of the reason for that is A, you don't really know what someone is like until you're vulnerable with them. Like whether they're going to take advantage of that vulnerability
Yeah.
or whether they're actually going to be there for you and care for you. Like that's the point when you go, okay, I trust you enough to be vulnerable with you. And then it's the other way around. It's seeing what those characters do, like seeing, understanding ourselves at our most vulnerable at the points when often we don't like each other, like ourselves the most. That I think is like the point for me in a romance where if someone can, it's saying that it's going to end in 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, I guess it is doing the 40-minute thing.
I have a pro thing. Okay, we are going to pause the recording here.
Okay.
I'm going to learn how to splice. Wait, unless it hasn't. I'm going to pause the recording for a moment here and we will continue in just a second.